Hello, welcome to Conscious TV. My name is Iain McNay, and today we're going to talk about cancer, but in a very positive way, about people who are diagnosed with cancer, how they can help themselves, and people that are close to them can also help themselves. And we have our studio guest today, Jonathan Chamberlain. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello.
And Jonathan has recently written 2 books about cancer, which I'm going to show up here. One's the Cancer, the Complete Recovery Guide, and the other is a shorter version, the Recovery Guide. And I think we'll actually start with the story of why you came to write these books, because it's a very touching story in a way, Jonathan. I know that you were living in Hong Kong for a time, and you had a very difficult period because, first of all, you got married, and I think you told me you got married because you almost drowned in a diving accident. Is that right?
Yes, indeed. I was 30 years old. I was in Thailand, and I arrived one day at this beach. I got up on the rock, and I didn't know the beach at all. It was just, I looked at the sea. It was just glistening. I looked down below me, and I thought there was a deep pool just below the rock. And I was about 15 foot up, and I dived into this pool, which I thought was 7 or 8 foot deep, and then realized as I was diving into it that it was only about 2.5 feet deep.
So halfway down.
Halfway down,
you must have thought.
I realized that I was doing something very, very stupid. And fortunately, I was quite strong. I braced myself. I was already prepared to hit the bottom even before I'd hit the water. But I still hit. I think there's a dent in my forehead here, and in fact, I bent my neck quite severely. I thought I'd broken it, and when I went,
were you unconscious? Or?
I wasn't unconscious. I would have drowned, I think, if I was alone. But I did suffer shock, and I got back to the beach. I forced myself back to the beach, and I lay down, and I was shaking. And then I had a night of contemplation of where my life had been and where it was going, I felt very peaceful. I mean, that's what happens when you have this kind of impact. You become very calm and peaceful, and so I was very accepting. I thought I might be. I certainly thought I'd broken my neck. I thought there was a distinct possibility of being quadriplegic, but fortunately that wasn't the case. And I'm here today. But it was a very, very close thing. And but as a result of that night, I decided I was going to marry my girlfriend, and the life was going to take a new direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I married Bernadette. We had a wonderful Chinese banquet. She's Chinese, and life went on a very more positive.
You were living in Hong Kong at this time.
I was living on a small island, just 10 miles south of Hong Kong Harbour.
Right.
And it was a beautiful island. No cars. It's 1 square mile. It was a Chinese village, and there was a small European community there, and it was a very, very good and strong community. So I was very happy there for 25 years on this island.
Right.
And we lived in a house, a flat that overlooked a wonderful bay, and I felt like a millionaire. I felt that I was, anyway, I probably was. I was a very happy person.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then your daughter was born?
Then my daughter Stevie was born, and Stevie literally changed my life.
Right.
Beautiful girl, but she was born with Down syndrome, and that was identified straight away.
Yes.
One of the problems with children with Down syndrome is that they can have heart problems. They have a very high instance of heart problems. She had a hole in the heart, and so she needed to have an operation when she was 6 months old. And unfortunately, something went wrong 2 days after the operation, and that's something that went wrong, left her brain damaged. It was an oxygen deprivation. I don't want to speculate as to whether the hospital might have reacted faster. Whatever happened, happened, and I was very accepting of that. The result was that she was left blind, she was epileptic, and she couldn't move. She couldn't roll over, she couldn't sit up by herself. But as you can see from...
Hold the picture again. I'm not sure the camera got it first time, yeah.
As you can see from this photograph, she was a very happy girl.
Yes,
and what made her particularly happy was music, and the tapes that we played her.
Yeah.
Also the exercises we the movements that we worked with her and made into games. But she, because she was totally, profoundly handicapped, she eventually died at the age of 8 from pneumonia, because that is what happens.
But didn't you, before that, actually start a society there to help support Down syndrome children? Yeah.
Living on this island, I thought of myself as a writer, as a rather lonely, not solitary, a solitary person.
Yes.
And I didn't really get involved in social activities or in charities or anything of that sort. And someone suggested to me that I should perhaps form a group that would help discuss the issues. And I said, well, I wasn't at all interested in doing that. But then shortly afterwards, in fact, when Stevie had to have her heart operation, we met a Chinese mother, I remember to this day, who was completely lost. She had a child who also had to have a heart operation. She had 6 children back home. She came from a poor family. She didn't know what to do, literally didn't know what to do. So I went to the social worker and I said, there's this woman who really needs some help. And the social worker just shuffled a few files and said, can't you see I'm busy? And I thought, all right, we need to do something. So I did. I set up an organization which was it's now called the Hong Kong Down Syndrome Association. And my ambition was to create an organization that had a staff of 3, an office, a telephone, and some brochures that went out into the hospital. Today, 20 years later, there is a staff, I'm told, of around about 100.
Wow.
Many of whom are themselves handicapped adults who are doing work in shops, who are doing work cleaning cars, and even doing clerical jobs in government offices. So I think we've been very successful. Obviously, that wasn't me. I did the initial...
You got the thing going.
I got the thing going.
Yeah.
And that transformed the way I viewed the world. I mean, I'm immensely proud of this organization that I had a little involvement with as a founder, but which, because it was healthy, and I think not all organizations are healthy, but because this was a very healthy organization, it just grew and grew in a very healthy way.
Yeah.
And what made it healthy was that it was not an organization for or by professionals for parents. It was an organization that brought the parents in as experts in their own right, and they're the experts about their children.
Yeah,
and so we have a very strong, strong parental involvement in this organization.
Empowering people, isn't it?
Very empowering, and so I always called it a second generation organization. It was the people for whom the work was meant for, taking over that work and making it for themselves.